In fact, we have a panel discussion now, and I would like to invite over Lorraine Demek-Magreen, Education Officer. Home Economics, okay, thank you. Put your hands together for Ms. Magreen, please, thank you. Mr. Carl Fenech, Social Worker from Agencia Support. Maria Mercia, Operations Manager, Foundation for Social Welfare Services. Thank you. Sarah Police from the Malta Financial Services Authority. Okay. And Alexia Vella, Director General, Ministry for Social Policy and Children's Rights. And last but not least, Mr. Carol Gabarretta, who will be moderating this discussion. Thank you.
So, this is in dangerous territory, yeah? We're the panel discussion before the lunch break, so we try to be as concise as possible. First of all, thank you for joining us, and I'm sure that given the context of which we've been seeing, and I'd like to start off with actually looking at the context. The context is the results, the overall results from the OECD survey. So although it was made clear by the OECD representative that there needs to be much more work, on a national level, I think all of us agree that that shouldn't be in any way a panacea, or we'll say, okay, so we, relatively speaking, we're on the same level playing field as other countries, so we can take it easy. I think all of us agree, all those organizations, including obviously ÇEMMA, MFSA, etc., who are very active in financial literacy, all of us agree that we need to do more. But let's start off the discussion. I'll start off with you, Sarah, if you don't mind. And to me, it's commendable that the MFSA has, over the last couple of years or so, I said it seems, but has been reaching out with an increased vigor in engaging the public. How best do you think it can be ensured that on a national level, the various entities active in fostering financial literacy and education amongst society's cohorts would be able to do so in harmony and collaborate in the most constructive manner and eliminate, obviously, as far as possible, any overlaps? This particularly when one considers that there may be several instances where such cohorts may be targeted by more than one entity or organization. May we have your views on this? Thanks.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, thank you, Carol, for this question. Yes, we all agree over here that it is very desirable to have a financial literate society, and it's very important that children from the very young age till the very old age are aware of their abilities to manage their finances in terms of knowledge, ability, and also their behavior. Yes, it's very important that all efforts are coordinated, as I have mentioned. It's important that there is a uniform approach, that we don't miss out on any cohorts, that we're not educating, the older people too much, or the younger people too much, but then forgetting, for example, even also on certain areas, which are, coming up every day. The financial world is constantly developing with new products. I mean, every day, all the time, basically. So it's a struggle to actually keep up to date. The scams which are coming in. So yes, it's important to have a very, very comprehensive program on this, which needs to be provided in a very structured and a very rational manner. And to do this, I think it's very important that all stakeholders come together as an entity, as a jurisdiction, to actually see where they are providing the best effort. So it's not a question of someone does something and, not netting other people, no, because over there we run the risk of overlaps. and the misuse of resources at the end of the day. Resources are finite, so we need to make the best use of them in the best interests of society. So it's important that there is this discussion between all the stakeholders and a common way forward and a common plan forward.
All right, thanks. Just as a comment, I would tend to say rather than perhaps, but I'd like your views if you're happy to do so. There are, as we said, several organizations, several entities, several offshoots, both from the government side, from the authorities standalone, the private sector, MBA, etc., just to mention one organization, MIA, who's the Association for the Institute of Financial Services. So many organizations, Malta. I don't want to leave anyone out, so those are just some examples off my head. But at the same time, when we look at the results, they're far from, how shall I say, edifying for us. So it's evident that we need to do more as a country. So perhaps, although all of us are doing something right, we need to improve that product. And I think that's the general theme of this panel discussion at the end of the day.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. I mean, everyone is doing a lot of work, everyone's doing a lot of effort, we have the same goal, but we need to coordinate better. That's the actual gist of it. I mean, you summed it up really well, because I believe that if it's better coordinated, we would get even better results.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass over to Maria Mercia. And I understand here that the Foundation plays an important and commendable role with those members of our society who require assistance to integrate better and develop further to achieve self-actualization. Thus, I am sure that you and your colleagues have encountered many instances where a lack of robust knowledge of and background in financial literacy may have been directly or indirectly the cause of problems for such vulnerable persons. Keeping this perspective in mind, from your experiences, what role do you think tailored financial literacy programs could play in reducing the problems you have encountered in your line of work? Just as a supplementary question, do you consider that exposure to such programs could responsibilize more those persons which have sought the Foundation services and assistance, or is the situation much more complex than that?
Okay, thank you. Quite a question. So, I don't think we mentioned vulnerable persons much today.
No.
So the result is talking about the mainstream society. So working with vulnerable persons, I think the complexity of all of it makes it much more difficult to work on financial situations. Usually the financial situation, financial instability would be the presenting problem of people who would be coming to us with issues in relation to financial issues. However, many times people do not have just one issue. So it's very complex. So one would lead to another. You would also need to see which one is the most important to tackle first, for instance. So yes, financial knowledge usually would be low in such situations. However, I think very important when working with persons who are in vulnerable situations, you need to have an understanding of what it means to be in that situation. I think we need to also be aware of our judgments as well. So what reasons do we give for persons to be in that situation? So if I'm working with someone who is in a situation where they do not even have money to buy food today, they're not in a position to think about the future, to think about when I will be, what will I do when I'm 60? Because I need to eat today. I need to feed my kids today. I need a place where to sleep today. So I think what's important is trying to build a relationship with them. Usually they are persons who do not have trust in the world. So they, I mean, you cannot go there and say, listen, I will tell you what to do because I know best. So building that relationship, trying to understand the person, where they're coming from, and I think taking a step-by-step approach. So yes, it's important to think about the future, but I need to help you today. So let's see what we can do today. Yes, you mentioned the individual program. So many times if you have organized a session, we do a lot of community work. So if you can organize a talk and invite the community to come in. Usually sometimes what we hear from professionals is those who would need the talk most are those who are not coming. But probably it's because it's not appealing for them. So if I don't have money today, imagine I go and listen to a talk, it's talking about private pensions. I mean, it's not appealing for me. It does not work for me. I think they would feel blamed, they would feel ashamed, you know, and that does not help. And sometimes many people would not have the self-confidence that I can do something different, I can do this. So yes, the individual programs are very important. So our professionals, usually many of the work would be done one-to-one privately. Sometimes, yes, we do group work if we feel that persons can benefit from that support, from listening to other people's stories. But many times our professionals work individually according to the very particular needs of that person. And as I said before, it's not just financial issues, and there would be a vast number of issues that they need to be addressed.
Yes, thanks. So basically, if I understood you correctly, the problems would appear sometimes to be much more of a social nature rather than strictly financial. Obviously, there are, and one cannot generalize because I'm sure you see a range of people with different problems, and that's why the situation, as you very well explained, is a very complex one. And perhaps I see your point that it is not a priority because, yes, there could be much more prevailing priorities at that point in time. But obviously, one cannot exclude that there could be benefit. But first, let's address the priorities at hand.
The ultimate goal would be financial stability, yes. So we would go there, but I think we'd need to do an action plan together. Exactly. We do it in partnership with the person. So again, it's not the professional telling you what to do, but we need to do this together. And the final goal would be divided into smaller tasks. So smaller tasks, manageable tasks, until you get to the financial stability that you deserve. So.
Okay. So basically, I don't want to steal Alexia's thunder, but ÇEMMA itself is focused. There is a focus also on budgeting. Yes. So perhaps that could also be. So thank you very much, Maria, for that. With that, I'll pass over to Alexia. ÇEMMA carries out many financial capability initiatives. Which do you feel have the most impact or have had the most impact? Are there any factors which you consider or perceive could be limiting greater take-up of financial literacy among the public in general? Following the publication of data, and here I'm referring to the results of Marika Sadni's findings with respect to where consumers place ÇEMMA. Where do you see ÇEMMA going from this point forward?
Where to start? Basically, as a ministry and also as ÇEMMA has become part of my division as well, we are basically embarking on a paradigm shift whereby we used to do these initiatives over and above our work. Now we are trying to focus on building capacity, having also full-time workers and also equip also Helena's directorate with also dedicated members. Over time and as things evolved, we started from the pension reform, whereby we felt the need to develop this initiative, but now we need not just to stop there, doing a lot of initiatives from our end. We are working with several partners because that's one also of our strategic directions. We work with different partners, with different cohorts, starting obviously from early ages and also with older groups and targeting, for example, groups groups specifically, such as persons with disability, persons ongoing mental health issues, training organized for small and medium enterprises, using different mediums to tackle the digital divide as well. But now we have the data in hand. So we need to strengthen our initiatives and also in collaboration with other government entities like MFSA and other partners, so that now we adopt a targeted approach rather than having a lot of initiatives, maybe double initiatives and repeated initiatives. We need to see what the data is telling us, analyze it, and act on a tailor-made approach, as you mentioned, so that we can target where are our difficulties, who are the groups who are lacking the knowledge, where we need to shift our investments, so that we can reach also those groups which we are not managing to reach. As regards to awareness about ÇEMMA, I think it's a positive result for us when considering the 2018 figures, but we don't need to stop there. We need to see how to reach more the cohorts and using different mediums. Today we have the social media, everything is evolving, so we need also to keep adjourning ourselves. So the data is going to determine where we need to focus. As regards limitations, obviously, we always try to strive to get more resources and also, hopefully, with collective effort, and I'm happy also with the collaboration that we have started this year, so that we can continue dedicate and reach those groups that we are not reaching till now. So that's our plan.
Just to amplify a bit, obviously, your role here is even more important. First of all, you have been vested with that role by government. But at the same time, the fact that we live in an extremely consumerist society. So basically, we get the message from everywhere, and this makes our life as organizations much more difficult. Spend, spend, spend. Whether you literally start crawling or walking, up to the time they put you in a little brown box, or maybe a larger box than that. So the message which is passed on by society in general is that you need to spend to make your life more comfortable, but obviously that comes at a cost. And as we've seen, there are people who can't even do the basics. So the fact that there is this mentality, the way I see things, maybe I misinterpret them, but it makes ÇEMMA's life much more difficult, and all the organizations who are active in this area much more difficult, because it runs counter to what we are being bombarded from on a daily basis. So I don't know, how would you see that you would be able perhaps to reach out, notwithstanding this underlying and overarching message that we get?
Yes. As a long-term strategy, now ÇEMMA falls under the strategy arm of the ministry, so that would help a lot, so that we have also financial literacy also included in other strategies, such as the strategy to reduce poverty, family strategies, the children policy. So we are trying to have integrated policies as much as possible, and even we, for example, make a case so that financial literacy is also given importance and as a life skill necessary in the educational area.
Great.
So we also contributed in that sense that we must have financial literacy as an important life skill throughout. Hopefully, if we reach the younger generations, then we would have resilient citizens to lead an autonomous life as much as possible and would not be impacted by the consumerism that we are referring to. For instance, we try, for example, to be not like, for example, for example, in Christmas, an advert came to mind whereby our colleagues of ÇEMMA, an advert was posted that we don't need to spend as much money to celebrate, but we can obviously do simple things so that we can still be happy. So obviously those are marketing strategies that we need to adopt and use different mediums, because today we cannot live in a world whereby we cannot use social media. So we need to adopt strategies and be as much as innovative, so that even if today everyone is using an app, create a budget app so that we can also reach those clients there. But it's always a challenge to go and manage these consumerist adverts all the time, and also the mentality as well. So there's the uphill. But I am sure that through our targeted approaches and marketing strategies, we can continue building awareness so that maybe persons think twice before spending.
Thank you. Thanks. I'll pass over now to Carl Fenech. Carl, I know that Agencia Support's mission is to offer and provide services, support and guidance to persons with disabilities to help them achieve social equitability. Zeroing in on the fostering of financial literacy programs among such persons. How do you assist clients with a disability to try to achieve as much as possible financial independence? Also, have you encountered any issues or underlying themes or in the development of such guidance? And perhaps some takeaways also there are representatives here from the financial services community, but not only, I would imagine. I represent the Malta Bankers Association. So if there are some takeaways there which we can perhaps also forward to our members for further consideration, it would be great.
Yes, thank you. Just to give an overview, Agencia Support is the national agency for persons with disability. For the first question, so to speak, us as an agency, our main aim is to provide the client with the independence necessary to live independently in the community. So when we are talking about this, we are talking about the possibility for the person to have his house, for example, in an ideal scenario, to be also financially independent. In such cases, as an agency, we do support our clients and we try our best to put the client within the program itself, rather than just us commending, so to speak, the client on what he has to do and what his needs are financially, what his wants are. For example, whenever he or she are going to buy a product, we try and talk to them and we see how we can be of support. Basically, we have a lot of professionals, like for example, when it comes to social work, we do support clients who are facing financial difficulties. As Maria mentioned, social issues are something that are issues. It's a phenomenon that is happening not just in Malta, but also across the board. So that's something also that also affects people with disability. So in that case, us as social workers, we can support them. We can try and see how we can link them to different services. There's also different services within the agency, such as the day center services. Its main aim is to provide one-to-one support directly with the client by going, for example, to carry out tasks, to go to the grocery, for example, to see which products are very important to buy, the needs, and also the wants, those that we can live without. Having said so, some of the issues that we really do encounter, first and foremost, even throughout the presentations, the fact that we are moving forward towards a more technological society. Unfortunately, there's sort of this, we are noticing the technological divide. People who are in a disadvantaged position are becoming even more disadvantaged because of the lack of luxury, so to speak, to have access to such, or knowledge to such technologies. Like, for example, case in point, internet banking or mobile banking. For people with disability, it is especially intellectual disabilities, not all, but there are a lot that unfortunately find it very difficult to use these apps. And I also would like to pinpoint a question: are they accessible to people with intellectual disabilities? So that is something that we can also collaborate together about this possibility. Even, for example, through the help of our occupational therapists, we can see how these apps can be better improved for clients so that they are able to access such services. Another factor that we are also currently being affected on is the cultural issues, to be honest, revolving around people with disabilities. For example, when it comes to financial literacy, many parents have this idea, unfortunately, that people with disability aren't able to take care of their money themselves. So that is something that sometimes it's very difficult to help the client himself or herself, but it's even more difficult to get the parents, in this case, on board. So unfortunately, it's a very, very difficult barrier to overcome, but hopefully, even through this discussion, we can also explore other possible alternatives on how we can support also the family of the persons with a disability in this case. Maybe we can, I don't know, I start thinking and eventually Dana, but I believe that that's also something that we can explore.
Great. Regarding just a bit of a comment, I fully appreciate your comments regarding the technological divide, because this is something which crops up. We, as association, hold outreach meetings on an annual basis with a number of organizations, and inevitably it crops up, coming from a number of cohorts. Sometimes, however, it's not easy trying to simplify, which is what already is an extremely complex way to do things, because we have to do it that way. I don't want to be too technical, but today a number of banking apps have this so-called two-factor authentication. So you have to, and it's not always, sometimes easy for me and possibly for others in the room to make sure that you've done it correctly. So let alone someone who has a disability, it could be even intellectually challenged, so it is not easy. It is not easy. It's a complex issue. Maria referred to the complexities in her particular line of work, and I'm sure here in your line of work, it's also extremely complex. Basically, I'll pass on to the last. Bear with me a second, because I lost my speaking about technology. Basically. Sorry about that. But Lorraine will forgive me, because Lorraine and I have known each other for around 6 years now, through our, that is the MBAs and ministries, mutual collaboration in organizing activities for young students as part of European Money Week and Global Money Week. Such collaboration has now entered its 10th year. Lorraine, given your experience in this field, how do you think we could or should organize the teaching of financial literacy in our schools to prepare our children with improved life skills and help them better adjust and adapt to the challenges of adult life, and nurture within them a greater appreciation of the importance of maintaining this exposure, so to say, to continual financial education throughout their life phase? So.
Okay. So basically, from all the presentations, it emerged that financial literacy is more than a life skill. I would say it's a tool for navigating life. And it's extremely important, obviously, for people to lead an important life, a successful life, and even in terms of well-being. Now, basically, I'm going to address your question chronologically, basically, starting from the very young ones and moving on the ladder. Children today, they're living in a society where they have access to money. They access financial services very early in life. And at the same time, they're navigating an ever-changing financial landscape, basically. So basically, whilst this is to their advantage, they have to take certain decisions. So they have certain responsibilities, basically. We've been hearing the term catch them young, and this has been used and abused as a term. So basically, within educational context, it has been used, and even within financial literacy context. And I guess that is very, very important to start financial literacy very, very early in life. So obviously, you address certain areas which lead to more complex financial competencies, the mastering of more financial competencies later on in life. So obviously, good habits start young, but at the same time, we have to curb bad habits. And once they're there, they're that instilled, it's very hard to change. Now, OECD has basically set its recommendations with respect to financial literacy education back in 2005. OECD had said it's very, very important for financial education to start at school. Obviously, this in no way was actually saying that the role of the person, the family, the guardians are not actually important. But obviously, today we've seen, and even from Marie Kafsadni's studies, that the parents themselves, the guardians, especially the age bracket between 20 to 39 years, they're themselves struggling with respect to financial capabilities. So this makes it even more important in the sense that what OECD had said 20 years back, it's still valid in this day and age, because schools have a very important role to play, considering the results of the studies that we have in hand. Now, obviously, I'd like to bring to the fore how we're currently experiencing financial literacy education in schools, starting from the very young ones. And basically, this is done through the presentation of transversal skills. To basically, the skills are common. It's very important to problem solve. It's very important to be able to adapt, to be flexible, to be resilient. And this is done through an emergent curriculum. And an emergent curriculum has its roots in the works of Piaget and Dewey. And basically, it's all about having educators build around the needs of children. There is nothing set with respect to anything, not even financial literacy at that stage. And yet, it is so important. It is a very important stage. Now, methodologies are also important at this stage. And I know that ÇEMMA have been working on storytelling. For instance, storytelling is a very important methodology with the young ones, where you have popular stories, and they're given usually a twist, a financial literacy twist. Now, how are we approaching financial education in schools? Basically, in primary schooling, it's under the umbrella of mandatory subjects. So it's embedded. Obviously, it comes with its own challenges, the fact that you have embedded financial literacy, but at the same time, when we look at different educational systems, we'll see when you have an embedded approach, it is more kind of contextualized. So it is more kind of addresses real-life scenarios rather than when you have a standalone subject that delves deep, but it doesn't necessarily address important issue. And this we've seen, even Elena Miteva discussed this. Knowledge is important, but finally, it's behavior change that is important, and knowledge doesn't necessarily translate into behavior change, and this is why quality programs and quality education is important. And I'd like to bring to the fore Estonia's example here. Estonia is a country where basically in 5 years, they have scored 18 points more in basically financial literacy. And how did this basically came along? When in 2002, only 75% of school children had access to education at that point in time. So obviously, they've moved a long way. Definitely, the financial literacy has been integrated through different curricular subjects. But at the same time, it's interesting to see so that even though their financial literacy improved, it was not translated into behavior change. And that is an interesting point. In fact, Dr. Ms. Miteva has actually pointed at the fact how important it is to address attitudes. And attitudes are embedded within values, and values are hard to change. So this is something that basically we need to look at. We don't have to think in terms of knowledge, but also in terms of behavior and obviously good practices. Now, finally, I'd like to tie in with what has been said. Generally, we cater for the general population. However, we have to consider Dr. Miteva's, I think she called it trichology approach. And one of the pillars addressed financial inclusion. And I think that is very important in education, that education prepares our youngsters in certain areas to be more financially resilient. The results point to the fact that financial literacy was lower in terms of scores when we had net annual incomes of less than 15,000. So that is food for thought. It is very, very important, obviously, to take that data and use it basically well so that when we come up with quality educational programs, we address what needs to be addressed. And this is something that we've been doing. You said we've been working together for the past 6 years, and through Money Week, through obviously our work with other stakeholders, we have within our educational systems specific programs addressing vulnerable groups. They are very promising. One of them, it's an ESF project that the Ministry for Education is actually doing with the Ministry for Social Policy. It has been properly evaluated. It affects knowledge of participants, so I guess that is the way to go.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you will join me in saying that the subjects which we have tackled are just the tip of the iceberg here. And obviously, we are limited by time. I think we have time for a question. I see the gentleman there. Please, can you just state to whom it should be addressed?
To Dr. Police, representative of MFSA. Thank you for your presentation. There was mention about education and consumer vulnerability. What is recently there has been a large upsurge in bond issues, corporate bond issues on the bond market, and people are being enticed by the relatively favorable coupon. What is the possibility for the MFSA to set up a rating agency for these bonds? You know, an independent and agency which can guide consumers about the risks involved in these bond issues. Thank you.
Currently, I can tell you that there is work going on with the capital market strategy within the MFSA, and this issue is being tackled over there. There are initiatives which are going to be made, but that specific aspect is part of the capital market strategy which the MFSA is looking at, and from a whole holistic perspective. Consumer education is just one pillar of that whole strategy, because the strategy obviously needs to work both ways, to offer good products and for the consumers to understand. So it is being taken into consideration as well as part of the strategy and the work which is being done by the MFSA in that area. I cannot really comment on what is actually going to be done because this is still under discussion, but we will be in communication with our stakeholders on this matter, on this strategy per se.
Just a short comment, if I can. It's something related to what Carl said yesterday, this is really sweet. It's really short. Yesterday I was interviewing this person who had intellectual challenges. And she works, she was trained to work, 2 jobs. She's now trained to live alone. And she was crying from the beginning of the interview till the end because we empowered her and we spoke to her just like someone who has no disabilities. And she was talking about this financial thing. And when I heard you say, talking about it, it would really make a lot of sense to these people because they're being trained really well. She was really, she spoke really well. So it's something which struck a chord to me.
Exactly. There are also success stories.
A lot.
It's not just because a person has a disability, he's not able to achieve financial independence. In fact, yes, we do have clients. In fact, we have one in common, Dana, because way back we used to work together also, where she also successfully managed not to only find a place for herself. It was a very difficult situation. There was also social issues involved also. But she found also employment and also managed to finance a lot of things herself.
Exactly.
So
I'm sure it's complicated, as you said, but we'll find a way. Technology is moving really fast, so there should be a way. Thank you so much to all of you. It was really, really interesting. Can we put our hands together for our guests and to the moderator as well? Very interesting questions. Very good. Thank you. Well done. Our last message from Miss Helena Holland about this conference. Yep.
I won't keep you long. Thank you so much for being here, for joining us. Thank you to our wonderful panel who really rose up to the occasion. And I'm glad that we had a mixture of different areas and it brought different perspectives and hopefully new collaborations and, you know, different ideas as well, also based on the results of this research. Thanks again. Thanks to those who did this wonderful setup. Thanks to the Minister, the Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Claire, for taking a big interest as well in the topic of the day. I know that there may be teachers here who have asked to contact us. So we have an email, @gov.mt. We have our portal. Please contact us if you want further information or collaboration. Now onward and forward, we can go forth to our networking lunch and you can have a drink and some food. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marika, because I forgot to thank you. And you've done a wonderful job, and I'm sure this will form a very, very important foundation element for the new strategy, which is going to bring us sort of to see 2026 forward. Financial literacy strategy, we're going to build upon your findings, yes? Yes, we will be circulating the presentations, and this is also going to be, this is being recorded, so you will have access to the recording, presentations, etc. Thank you so much.
A gentle...